Hey everyone! In this video, I'll walk you through a simple temperature conversion program using JavaScript. So in the program, you would enter a temperature value, let's say 100. You select the kind of conversion you want, say from Celsius to Kelvin, and it will display the converted temperature in Kelvin. You can do same for a different value, let's say 373.15, and set the conversion from Kelvin to Celsius, and it will display the converted temperature in degrees Celsius. That is 100 degrees. So it's a very simple and super amazing project that involves DOM manipulation, input validation, and basic maths. So with that in mind, let's get the program running. In the HTML document, we'll have some elements that will form the structure of this program. But the most important ones are this inputs box with a type of number where you can enter a temperature value. This drop down with the select element where you can select the type of conversion you want, whether you want to convert from Celsius to Kelvin or Kelvin to Celsius. And finally, we'll have this div element that will display the results, which is a converted temperature. And that's all the markup we need. In a CSS file, we'll have some declarations and styles, very simple, so that we can add some style and design to our program. Now let's add some functionality to our program so that it can run perfectly as we want it to. Now, before we get into the logic of the program, I want you to take note that to convert a temperature from Celsius to Kelvin, you add 273.15 to the temperature value. And to convert it from Kelvin back to Celsius, you subtract the 273.15 from the value. So take note of that. The first thing we'll do is to access the HTML elements that we will need and assign them to variables so that we can grab and manipulate them whenever a user does something. So we'll come into the HTML document, and the elements we need are the input element, the select element, which is the drop down, and the div section that will display the results of the converted temperature. So we'll get their IDs and assign them to variables in the JavaScript. Next, we'll create a function to run the program. So I'll call the function convert, and inside the curly braces, we'll add some blocks of code that will be executed when the function is called. Next, we get the values inside the input box and the selection field, which is the select element, and you assign them to variables. So with the value inside the input box, we get the value and we first convert it into a number, because whenever we accept user input, it always has a string data type. So we convert it into a number with the passFloat method, and we assign it to a variable value. And we do same for the unit select. We get the value and assign it to the variable conversion. Now, this is the logic of the program. So we can either have an invalid number or a valid number. So if the number is invalid, we'll just display a message to tell the user to enter a valid number, and we'll stop the function. Now, if there is an actual number, a valid number entered, then we'll go ahead and check the type of conversion, whether it's from Celsius to Kelvin or the other way around, which is from Kelvin to Celsius. So if it's from Celsius to Kelvin, we do something. And if it's from Kelvin to Celsius, we do something else. That's the logic of the program. So now we check if it is not a number. So if the value is not a number, we update the text content of the results field to enter a valid number. And then we return the function, use the return keyword to stop the program because we now have what we want. Now, what if we enter a valid number, then we do something else? So we first declare a variable output that will assign something to it later. Now, when you come into the HTML document, we can see that in the options element, we have two values. So either it's from C to K, which is from Celsius to Kelvin, or from K to C. So these are the values you're going to use. So what if the conversion is from Celsius to Kelvin? So if the conversion is strictly equal to C to K, we get the output and assign it to this calculation. So with the value we entered, we add 273.15 to it, and that will be the conversion. And then we convert it to a 2 decimal point figure with a to-fixed method and a to value to indicate 2 decimal places. And we concatenate it with the K sign to depict that the converted value is to Kelvin. Now else, that is when the conversion is now from Kelvin to Celsius. We get the output and assign it to the calculation, the value minus the 273.15. And we do the same thing. We convert it to a fixed decimal place number, 2 decimal places with a to-fixed method. And we concatenate it with the Celsius sign because we are converting from Kelvin to Celsius. And after doing all this, we update the text content of the results field, the results div, to converted with a semicolon, and we concatenate it with the output value we have. And lastly, we will add events to our program so that whenever a user does something, then we can call the function. So with my input box, which is a temp input, we add an event listener to it. And the event is input. So when the user types something inside the input box, then we run the function or we execute the function. And we do same for the unit select field. So with my unit select, we add an event listener to it. And the event this time is changed. So when we change the type of conversion, then we execute the function. So now let's check if the function runs perfectly, if the program runs perfectly like we want it to. So in the input field, we enter a value, let's say 200, and the conversion is from Celsius to Kelvin, and we have the converted value over here, which is correct. And let's change it. So let's say we convert from 300 from Kelvin to Celsius, then you have 26.85 degrees Celsius. So there you have it. This is how to create a simple temperature conversion program using plain HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you learned something new today, drop a like. It helps a lot. If you've got any questions or you want me to build something else, leave a comment down below. I drop tutorial videos every week, so if you're serious about improving your web development skills, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. I'll see you in my next video. Peace.